As a black person, I want to be concerned about issues of the world. But when will the world treat black people with respect and fairness? Posted on Twitter and Instagram by Finding Paula. Racism is an evil that no amount of Black History Months, diversity and inclusion initiatives, or even education can solve. Why? Because it is a choice, a disgusting choice at that. You have to choose to be racist. You have to choose to engage or enact in racist behaviours, discrimination, prejudice against people of colour. A lot of people walk around pretending that they are not racist. They coexist as long as it's convenient or beneficial. But it's in these situations where you see the real heart of some white people. There's no more excuses for racism in this day and age. There is no justification either. You're just a crap human being, and may God have mercy. And that was posted by Bernice Quasi. Hello, and welcome to Tuesday's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. I usually start with one quote, but I needed to start with two to fully capture kind of what's been happening. Obviously, you know, we've all seen the media, we know what's happening in Ukraine, we know what's happening in Ukraine in the hands of Russia, and it seems like Belarus as well. I think something that broke my heart, as I know it did several of you, is the level of anti-blackness and racism against Africans in the Ukraine, basically being told that they can't board certain transportation out of Russia because of the colour of their skin, and actually Ukraine soldiers and officials prioritising the white people of the Ukraine to get out first. Because even in bloodshed, some white people will still find time and opportunity to be racist. It's nothing short of racism. That is modern day racism. You know, we talk about racism and how it manifests itself, albeit sometimes covertly. This is overt racism. It's crazy. There's a few people that follow me and I follow on Instagram, and I've had to unfollow, including people I know personally, because they are posting, "We stand with Ukraine," and that's fine. We do stand with Ukraine. But when it has been highlighted that the racism that black people or African black people that are experiencing in Ukraine, they're not reposting those things. So when we say you stand with Ukraine, are African people who live in Ukraine not Ukrainians as well? So anybody that I'm following that's not also raising awareness of the discrimination, the racism, and the damn right disgusting humanity that we live in, and the behaviour of those soldiers at various borders, prohibiting black African people from bordering certain transportation out of the country. Those people who are not raising awareness of this, as this humanitarian crisis is happening, this war is happening in Ukraine, if no one is willing to highlight the racism, then I'm unfollowing you. Because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, because I see people, we stand with Ukraine, no, and that's fine. But standing with Ukraine is all of its citizens, not just its white citizens. Okay? Thank you. Right. My heart and my prayers are with all the black Africans in Ukraine who are trekking to other borders, like the Hungarian borders, to try and get into those countries to escape what's happening in Russia, and all those people who still remain in the Ukraine. You know, to be honest with you, it's shocking that this is what we're having to witness, and it's heartbreaking to see black people, black Africans having to suffer merely because of the colour of their skin and be treated as second-class citizens during war. It's just unbelievable. This week's episode is called Mass Exodus, and it comes in two parts. It will become very clear as to the reason why. If you've been listening to the podcast, and I mean really listening, this episode will make sense. If you're listening for the first time, you need to acquaint yourself with some of the previous episodes for this particular episode to make sense, okay? Last week I said to you, you need your pen and paper. and I meant it. You need your pen and paper for this week's episode and next week. And to be fair, given that I did a stationary collaboration with Dreams and Purpose where we actually sold notebooks, I would think that encouraging people to use notebooks, I stand by that. Like, I even give it to you, the notebook. So we need to bring it. You understand it? Mm-hmm. So you guys know that I have been, and I need to caveat before I start actually. This episode is pertinent to anybody in the workplace, whether you are a contractor, a permanent employee, a fixed term employee, if you are an interim agency employee, whether you work inside or outside IR35, whatever industry you are in. Because this episode and the podcast as a whole is not just for people in the corporate world. I no longer work in the corporate world. I started off in the corporate world, but the bulk of my experience and my work experience and my experiences in certain workplaces come outside of the corporate world. The corporate world just opened my eyes to the Wolf of Wall Street. That's all. So you guys know that this organization I've been working for are crazy and mad. I've shared with you over the past 14 months my experiences there. And irrespective of how senior I am and the amount of money I earn per day, it doesn't preclude me from experiencing the racism, the discrimination, and the bullying and harassment that I have experienced. And I live by what I teach. So I have read the grievances, I've told you how I've navigated, and I am one of the highest paid people in the team. My day rate is the highest day rate I have ever charged and received in my entire career, and my entire career since becoming a contractor. Okay? So I was under no illusion, and I'm never under any illusion when I walk into an organization, because when you come in as a contractor, the perms, especially if you go in and maybe there is a lot of contractors, the permanent staff don't always treat the contractors very well, because underneath it was jealousy. A lot of these perms are too afraid to take the risk to become contractors. And for some people, it's just not their bag. Some people want the security of a perm role, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've gone through the period of having that security, and it's not any real security, because if somebody wants to make you redundant, they will enact and enforce some of the clauses within your employment contract, and then you'll find yourself in a redundancy process. Do you understand? So for me, I took a risk on becoming a contractor because I recognized that I'd done everything I needed to do to become a subject matter expert, and I've seen the growth in my career upon becoming a contractor. And I've always said to you that even as a perm, I never stayed anywhere more than 2 years, and I climbed the career ladder that way. That's how it worked for me. And I think being a black woman, we have to understand that in some organizations, maybe they're happy for you to be the token, but there'll always be a ceiling in which the token will reach, and that will be it. Or you can make a decision to be the architect of your career and then decide what your objectives are for a particular organization, achieve those objectives and move on. So as a perm, I was always there. 2 years and I'm out, 2 years I'm out, and sometimes even less than if I'd already achieved my objective. And then obviously I've watched my career grow even further from a financial perspective as being a contractor. I recently posted on TikTok, and someone said, how did you get into consulting? How did you get into that? And I've always said to you guys that there wasn't like a manual. I just fell into it. One of my best friends, or she's my only best friend, she became a contractor first, and she said to me, Toya, this is where the money is. This is what you need to do. And I watched her thrive, and she covered me with love and blessings and showed me the way, and I've never looked back. So this particular organization is the longest organization I've ever been in since leaving perm roles to become a contractor. I've been here for 14 months, and it's 14 months of a roller coaster that has really also continued to open my eyes in the way in which white middle class men behave and how they feel so threatened by black women, especially black women who are not going to accept the patriarchy, and black women who will speak up and advocate for themselves. If you are that woman, you are often treated as overtly as a second-class citizen. And I've definitely felt that way at work. But I say to myself, the blessing is that I've worked for 14 months here as a contractor, and any contractor will tell you 14 months is worth its weight in gold, because it's a long contract, but it also comes with its disadvantages, and I'm going to cover that a bit later. I have no regrets, because I made the decision that I needed to make in accordance to the circumstances. And the circumstances is I'd come back from Morocco February 2020, and I was already in a contract. I've been in a contract since October 2019. Went to Morocco in February, came back, and COVID had gone crazy. So in April, I made the decision to leave my contract. And I did speak about that back in April 2020. I'd been there long enough. So I said to myself, okay, you know what? I've made enough money that I can take 6 months out for the summer. And then I'll find a new contract, probably like September, October times. However, COVID hit, and it meant that the market didn't necessarily know how to react. A lot of organizations who were not used to working remotely or from home in any capacity kind of almost had like a freeze, a recruitment freeze, like an unplanned one, but no one really said it was, right? But there were certain industries that were hit quite hard. So I had spoken to my best friend, and I was like, you know what, I need to find a contract, everything's dried up. And she's like, don't worry, I got you. So she submitted my CV, and there was a couple of things that happened in between, but I had my interview, passed my interview, had another interview, and that's where they negotiated my rate. And I got so kind, I negotiated the maximum rate that I knew I could get for this role, given that, it was only meant to be a 6 months contract anyway. So I started in October 2020. And I think because COVID had caught us all unawares, those people who were in roles just stayed in situ. So I definitely feel very blessed to have gotten a role in October. COVID had hit. It was really bad, and you just kind of wanted to have something quote unquote secure. But ever since that day, I have seen a lot in the organisation I've been in. Deborah has been, I can go on record to say that she is one of the greatest managers I've ever had in my entire career. And I don't say that lightly. As the episodes progress, it will become clearer to you why I say this and why I truly believe this. You see, one of the issues that I always felt in the organisation is that as a black woman, I understand completely that you can never get comfortable. And I say to you guys all the time, you have to have an objective as the reason why you're there. Maybe you're there so that they'll pay for you to do, some type of courses. So you know that as part of the study plan, you need to continue working there for a period of 2 years after completion of the course, whatever the situation is. For a contractor, it's slightly different, because for us, some people are just driven solely by the money. Some people are driven by the money and the title and the growth, and other people just want the experience, right? But for me, as a contractor, you try to make as much money as you can while still delivering. And in my field, I definitely feel it's more for me as well about making sure that I grow to a certain level, so that if I then decide to go off and have a family, I come back after maternity back to that level again. So for me, I would definitely say that from a career perspective, I would say that I have peaked. I think I'm comfortable to say that. But I feel like there is no ceiling to peaking, if that makes sense. So I've peaked, and the trajectory is still upwards. I definitely don't feel like there's any type of ceiling. Whereas I feel like as a perm, the ceiling would have been a lot lower. I would have peaked a lot earlier because the ceiling was so low, and then there'd be nowhere for me to go. I think that within the organisation, I think Deborah is a black woman. She identifies as black, but she's mixed race. But she identifies as black, and I would say that she's black passing, because all the white guys and non-black people in the workplace have referred, see her as black, and some of them has referred to her as black. So I definitely know that's how they see her. But I definitely think that Deborah kind of suffers from what Meghan Markle had. And what I mean by that is Meghan Markle, I did tell you, I did an episode about her, whereby she never spoke about any black issues. because she was more white passing. And then when she was being treated the way she was, she then almost called upon black allyship to defend her when she, in my opinion, had never done anything for black women, because suddenly her white passing passport wasn't working within the monarchy. And suddenly she realised that she's mixed race. And then she started talking about black female issues. And I definitely feel with Deborah, it's kind of similar in that I think that she forgot she was black. And what I mean by that is not in its literal sense. I think she was so distracted by other things. I don't think she saw that she was being set up. Deborah was being set up. So a few weeks ago, 2 perm people. So remember, we're working on all these projects, yeah, high value projects. And the team I'm in is, I'd say we were 98% contractors. So obviously we know that once we take the projects where we need to take it, we'll be handing off to perm employees. And you find that, right, as a contractor, sometimes they hire you because they're trying to fill the perm roles, and they're finding it difficult, so they get a contractor in. And yeah, they have to pay a premium to have us there, but they'd rather have us there while they take their time to find perms. And it was kind of the same here. They had a lot of projects, and they just needed the contractors in to deliver, and then the view would be that we would hand off to the perms. And for me, I didn't really mind. I don't care, you know. I'm not wedded or webbed to any organization, and for me it worked out quite well. 2 people joined the team, and they were perms in another team, and they'd come to join our team. And Ola and Seb. Ola, black woman, introduced herself and everything. And one thing my boss does is when someone comes into the team, she'll send an email. Then she'll put a list of people who the new people need to talk to. And she does it in the list of hierarchy. That's how I see it. Our team is a flat structure, and in any case, as contractors, you shouldn't be part of that structure, because you are a contractor. You're not a perm. In the same way org charts and stuff would work for perms. As contractors, it doesn't really work like that. Like you have someone you report to and stuff, but you're not going to have the same things that perm have. So for example, I'm not expected to be doing training and all this shit. I'm a contractor, unless it's quite a specific industry. So for example, the finance industry, where maybe you need training to use certain software. Okay, fair enough, but I'm not working in the finance industry. So my boss was good at that, where she kept the structure flat. No one was senior, but you knew who was senior, right? You just knew. You didn't have to have it in front of your title. So for me, I know I'm quite senior because I'm leading in a multi-million-pound project. Yeah, and my contract is considered silver, which is being recategorized as gold. You understand? So by virtue of that, And also when she's sending the email for invites, when she's sending an email to the newbies and telling them who to introduce themselves to, like, my name is like top 3. You understand? So I met Ola. Ola put some time in my diary. And remember, I tell you, not all skin folk is kinfolk. Don't make the assumption that, this is my black sister. No one's your sister in the workplace. Yeah? They just, please. And as a contractor, I'm already on an understanding as well that I got commitment issues when it comes to workplaces, because that's why I'm a contractor, because I don't want to commit to be a perm. I got commitment issues. That's what I say to people. When they try to offer me a perm, I'm like, I've got commitment issues. So I met her and I couldn't work her out. She was a bit of a know-it-all, She was a bit of she'd been in the team a few weeks, and obviously Debbie had sent an email, but I felt like she was a bit of a know-it-all. Like, she'll come in the team calls. No one knows you, and already like you're trying to tell people what to do. It's just wild. Like, we were having team calls twice a day, 8:30 and midday. I don't understand why you're coming there to come and do up solution. Come and do up. No one's asking you. Like the Wendy Williams of the team. Like, what's up? How you doing, honey? So anyway, I was very quiet. I let her talk because I was just observation mode. And I'm doing my due diligence. I don't need to talk. She was told to meet me. So it's for her to then do her due diligence on me. But she wasn't doing that. So I was like, I don't even care. Ended very nice, very polite, very cordial. Seb, on the other hand, my spirit never took to him. And people had already said that he was like a bit much, you know. They will send IMs and they were like, Seb is a bit much, da 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 da. And he was meant to have a meeting with me, cancelled, last minute, and then rescheduled. And then I said, sorry, this time doesn't work for me. I don't work on your time, basically. In my mind, I'm thinking, I don't work on your time. But he was insistent on meeting me. It was a bit weird. So like, even though I was rescheduling, after 3 reschedules, you just get the message. This man wasn't getting it. So when I met him now, the first thing he said to me is, oh, hi, my name is Seb. He's like, oh, I heard you work on so-and-so project. I said, yeah. He goes, oh, so have you got any kind of like vacancies within the project? I said, no. He said, and then he started giving me his shopping list of experience. And in my head, I was like, you're hopeless. Anybody who has to sell themselves in that way, better be careful because they have something to prove. And the way he will ask me a question, I'll answer. And as I'm answering, he's interrupting me. So already you like the sound of your own voice, Abby. Mm-hmm. Then he said, oh, I just want to know, what's the hierarchy in the team? And then you already know. That's alarm bells. That means that you are ambitious enough that you need to know that, and there's nothing wrong with ambition, but you've been here 0.5 seconds and you're asking about a hierarchy because it's clear to you there is none. So what you're then trying to do is insert yourself in some type of hierarchy, some type of senior. He has no understanding of the industry that we're working in. He's never ever worked in our industry. He was in another team doing like something else that has nothing to do with it. So rather than him learn, he's now come to do hierarchy. So I already made my decision. I'm staying far, far, far away from him. Now, remember I told you our team is made up of contractors. So you've got different consultants. You've got people who are independent consultants like myself. You've got people who belong to consultancies. But we're all one team. And the only time you remember who is what is when you're sending an email. Otherwise, we're all one team and we all get on really, really well. But these two, they just didn't really fit, if it makes sense. There was something that wasn't quite right. But they're perms, right? So I guess the way they would adapt to working in a team full of contractors may be slightly different. But Seb really bothered me. There was something very divisive about him. Every team meeting, Seb has to talk and he talks shit. Do you know what big shit is? He talks shit. Over the camera, I can smell the doo-doo. It's poo. Nothing he says was making sense. It's like he just was speaking for speaking's sake. My boss will be talking and he will just interrupt her. I said, what is this? What is this? And our team is we're quite reserved. So we will only talk if there's something pertinent. Do you understand? But we all get on relatively well. Team meetings, we don't typically put our cameras on unless my boss says, oh, come on, guys. Is it just going to be me today? Come on. And, you know, 1 or 2 people will then put it on, you know, like a little bit of a giggle. But there's no obligation to put your camera on. I want you to tell me why. Seb will put his camera on. Seb is so close to the screen will now become blurred. You're trying to find your way inside, Abby. Mm-hmm. Then Ola will be she's just doing up something. So I'll give you an example. Somebody was talking about something that they were dealing with in their project. And what I love about the team is they will be talking about certain things they're doing in a project. Me, I'll be taking notes because I'm learning from them. They may not be on the same project as me, but I'm learning from like how they've dealt with something or what they're asking advice. I really, this is the first time I've worked for a very high performing team where it's not just 1 or 2 people that are high performing. We are all high performing. So this is an opportunity for you to pick and learn. So one of the colleagues, she actually started around the same time as me. We're in the same industry, but she works on a separate project and her project is quite complex. And I have no understanding of kind of her project. So she was talking about something and she was talking about one of the issues that she had, how she dealt with it, As she was talking, Ola just, oh, but if you want to do this and and then she said, oh, just to let you know, yeah, I'm a perm. So everyday perm, I'm a perm. Are you relaxing your hair? Perm. Every day. Then she'll say, oh, that she can bring her expertise, but she's never been in this industry before. So what expertise are you bringing? What is it? This kept happening now about a month. And then one day, there was a shift. Some of the contractors started to be let go of. Because let's be honest, we're coming to the end of the financial year. People have overspent. And this is what happens, yeah? As contractors and as perms, you should be aware of this. If you're asking for a pay rise 2 weeks before the end of March, you're not going to get it. Maybe beginning of March, you're not going to get it. Because what happens is people are trying to make the budget that they've burnt out last until the next financial year where they get a new budget. So you will expect as a contractor, if your contract is coming to an end, the likelihood of extension is also dependent on what budgets are available. So what you tend to find is this can be quite precarious time where people will be let go of because there's no budget for them, or people are reconfiguring, but realigning their budget to keep others and not others. So, and that's fine because some people are on 5 days notice. For me, I was on 5 days notice. I renegotiated my notice clause because I wasn't having that. You're not going to come to me and tell me I've got 5 days. No, it's not going to work. My notice within my contract, I renegotiated it to 4 weeks. So when I started this role, I was on 1 week's notice and it was a mutual notice. So what I mean by that is I could terminate within 1 week. They could terminate within 1 week of notice, right? Now, when they came to me for the first renewal of contract, I said to them, well, if you want to renew the contract, then we need to renegotiate the termination clause because it doesn't work for me. Now, some of you will say, why didn't you do it in the beginning? Well, I didn't do it in the beginning because I recognized quite early on that what I would be able to negotiate at the beginning was my day rate. I could live with the 5 days because I'd personally, for me, when I start a new contract, I don't know if I want to be there past 5 days anyway. So it worked for me. As the contract continued, I was like, okay, I could do this. I could stay here. So when they came to me to renegotiate, I said, okay, we can renegotiate. I'm not going to renegotiate my day rate. But and in my head, I knew that the next time they would come to me to extend me, that's when I'm going to do the day rate again. So I said, okay, if you want to extend me, then we have to renegotiate the day rate. We have to renegotiate the notice period. And if we renegotiate the notice period, I'll let go of renegotiating the day rate. So clearly, if they're coming to me to extend me, it's because they want me to stay. And at that point, my project was at a critical path. So they said, okay. So renegotiated my termination clause within my contract, and I was on 4 weeks notice. So I digress. I apologize. So Ola and Seb, then somebody else landed from the perm side. Someone else landed, and we're going to call her Rita. Now, Rita, with a capital R, couldn't work her out. But obviously, they're all fruits of the same tree. That's called the perm tree. Then we would be doing, like, catch-up calls during the day, because my boss really, like, she's very hands-on in the sense that she wants to give us opportunity if we need to escalate, if we've got questions, then we have forums for it, if that makes sense. I spoke to one of my friends, and when I say one of my friends, my best friend. This is not the first time I've worked with my best friend, by the way. We're in the same industry. I said to her, what do you think is going on here? She goes, Toy, I don't know. Something's brewing. I said, I know. I got a phone call maybe 4 weeks ago now. It was Deborah. She said, Toy, I feel like the tide is turning. What are your thoughts? I said, yeah. I said, these perms, if they want us to relinquish the contract, we can do that, but they don't have the capability to take our contract. So there has to be a handover period. But what I'm not understanding is why we have had the perms parachute over. And they're acting as though they're ready to take over. Like, it's like an us and them situation. It definitely felt like that. And I said to her, listen, as contractors, we know how it goes with perms. They typically don't like us because we get paid more than them. So they're angry like they're chewing wasps. So they behave like this, they're very aggressive, all of this. Me, I'm collecting day rate. They're collecting wasps as they're chewing them. I don't understand. So I said to Deborah, you need to be careful of Ola, Seb, and Rita. She said, why? I said, because I smell a rat. I said, Seb made too much of an effort and too much of a fuss about sitting down and meeting me. And the first thing he's asking me is about hierarchy. I said, that comes from somewhere. And I've observed him enough to know that something isn't right. Yeah? Like, he's asking me to come on my supplier meetings. Like, what's that about? I said, no, something's not right. She's like, oh, Toya, maybe you're overthinking it. I said, I'm not overthinking it, because every time I tell you about maybe you've hired someone, you come to ask me my opinion, I'm always right. So she laughed. A week later, Debbie called me. She said, Toya. I said, yeah. You alright? I said, right about what? She goes, there's spies in the team. I said, okay, what's going on? She goes, well, I'm just going to let you know now that I will no longer be managing this team. I said, pardon? She goes, the perms are basically taking over. I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, they've airlifted this perm team who were doing something else, and they're airlifting them and putting them on our projects, and they're going to take over. So obviously there can't be two captains in one ship. So she has been demoted to doing handover only. No meetings, no authority to sign, no authority to do this, that, and the third. And in fact, all the meetings that Deborah's put in to be cancelled, and the new head of this particular division will be having a meeting with us to tell us what the new rules are. Debbie said the person that's taken over called her, is a perm person, and basically said, you're out. And Debbie was very emotional. And I was a bit surprised, because I don't know Debbie to be like emotional like this, but I think what it was is we've dedicated ourselves to the project, to the projects, and then, you know, we've worked, you guys see me on Instagram, I've worked late, sometimes weekends, and there are like 15 projects that us that all work on, like 15 individual projects, and that's quite hard to manage for a boss to be abreast of 15 projects. And then you've got, like, if you imagine you've got 15 projects, and then you've got 15 header pillars, so I'm one of the header pillars, and then you've got people that sit within our pillars that support the delivery of the projects, if that makes sense. So she's abreast of all of it. She knows what's going on, and that is real dedication. That is somebody who genuinely respects her team and really knows that she's hired subject matter experts, and we make her look good. But I think the way it was handled was so bad, because what happened was Seb and Ola were reporting back, and what was happening is they were giving information to the person that was going to take over. So they came in on a fact-finding mission. So now I'm realizing that we're having our own coup. This is a coup. And my boss was none the wiser. And she says, Toy, I was distracted. I was distracted because I feel like my boss is quite hierarchical in that sense. So she will spend time more with people, like more of her peers and the directors and CEOs. And why not? She's one of them. But she's an interim, like me. She's a contractor. But I think she got too comfortable. I think that because we've been here for 14 months, I think she got too comfortable. And I think she got too comfortable in a sense that she forgot that she was a contractor. It's almost like being here for as long as she was made her forget that she is a contractor and give her a false sense of security of being a perm. And this is the reason why, as a contractor, you do not stay up to 12 months, because then you start getting involved in the politics. There's like blurred lines, right? Because then people also forget that you are a contractor and you start getting treated like a perm. And I think this is what was happening here. So I said to Deborah, I said, listen, we have to ride this wave. And I said to her, let's see what happens in the team meeting. So we had the team meeting now, and I kid you not, there was 10 people on the screen. Ola and Seb and Rita had their screen. These people were there front and center, and all the people that are in this perm team were on the screen. And the new head, we'll call her Natalie. She said, oh, just want to let you know, you know, I'm not saying there's a new sheriff in town, but there's a new sheriff in town. I said, what? In my head, I said, hey, sheriff. No, honey, I don't ride horses. And I will not be in a gunfight. No, ma'am. No, sir. But listen to the words that she's using. So she wants to fight. You're not going to fight me, you know. You're not going to fight me. And moreover, I knew this was going to happen. Now, I may not have known it will happen to this degree, but I knew it was boiling. Listen, I done my due diligence. I even said to my boss, I said, Deborah, why did you hire Ola and Seb? She goes, no, they were pushed onto her. I said, at that point, you question why they were pushed onto you. You have autonomy to hire your own staff, and suddenly you're being told the perm have to come in. That's a sign. And I picked that sign quick. Do you remember I told you guys a few weeks ago, I'm going to start looking for a new contract? Because I could feel the tide, man. It was getting choppy. The tide was getting choppy. I said, yeah, I don't like this one. No. I don't like it. And I'm tired as well, because I've been here for 14 months. That's 14 months that I never thought this is supposed to be a 6-month stint. They've extended my contract 3 times. Or actually 4, if you count what I received last week. But it's 3 times. The 3rd time, I renegotiated my day rate. Yeah, anytime you want to come to me to do extension, you have to make it worth my while. I need to get something. You think I've got a negotiation masterclass on the website for no reason? Everything I teach, I walk and live. Facts. Listen, I'm not one of those people who will tell you, how to be financially free. My dear, I'm not financially free, so I can't teach you. The one I can teach you is how to navigate the world of work strategically and highlight the path of your success. Define what success means. I will help you to navigate and light up that path. That's my bag. That's me. So I live what I teach. You understand? So then after the meeting, it was the meeting was aggressive. All the contractors, we had our camera off. Then Natalie said, does anyone want to say anything? No one said a word. It was very much us and them. And Deborah, she had her camera on. And they said, Deborah's well aware. Deborah weren't aware of nothing that was going to come out of their mouth. All she was aware of is that meeting was going to happen. Hey! The IM messages start. People within my team, they were messaging me. I said, listen, I don't know nothing. I said, I'm hearing it like you lot for the first time. I'm hearing it like you lot for the first time. So I called Debbie. I said, Debbie, you need to find a new contract. You need to leave. Or you need to take a break. Whatever the case is, I said to her, there's no longevity here anymore. You gotta go. Because what's about to happen is, this is a coup. They've even announced that the coup is here. They didn't even come like, film. They sent fact finding mission, which is Ola and Seb. And now they've taken all that information given to Natalie. She has now staged a coup. And she has all the leverage because she's perm. She is the organization's safe pair of hands. We are the risk. We're the risk because we have all the knowledge. We set up all this stuff. We're managing all this stuff. And we historically know all the information, everything. It's all in our heads. So now they're going to try extracting that information because as far as they're concerned, they are the quote unquote, as Natalie said, the new sheriffs in town. So what happens when there's a new sheriff in town? Usually there's a bit of a fight in it. There's like a bar brawl. It's us and them. That's what she's saying because that's what it is. The Western films is them and us, isn't it? The outlaws. Where are the outlaws, Abby? So I said, Deborah, it's time. She said she knows. But she said, Toya, I built this team from nothing. And there are core people within this team, you being one of them, that I'm very fiercely protective of. So I can't leave you guys. You guys need to leave. I'll leave after when I know you guys are safe and you've left. I said, okay. My fellow queens, what has been happening at work has been nothing short of madness. A meeting was called later that week and there was an organogram Organograms are very triggering for me. I'm going to tell you now, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because I see organograms as a systematic oppressive slide to remind people who is in charge and who is going to be oppressed and suppressed. I think it is a way to pull rank, and it's used often violently. Not all the time, but in my experience here, organograms are like, you can have an organogram and you show it once, but when you're showing me this every single day, you're trying to remind me that you're going to oppress me. Organograms are the ceiling. They're the visual ceiling for me. That's how I take it. Although I understand that organizations work from an organogram perspective because there is a hierarchy. But sometimes I feel like you don't need to. Hierarchies are known. When you put senior, head of, department head, like we know that already is the hierarchy. When you now start putting it on a visual template, that to me is quite triggering. So that later that week, they had an organogram. My name was on this organogram. Now remember how I started this episode. I want you to explain to me how you're going to put a contractor on an organogram. I'm not part of the organization. I'm sorry. I am employed by my limited company. So I don't understand. Now, are you employing me? What's all this? And also the whole IR35 thing, I can't be on your organogram. That's the first thing. So I just used the opportunity because it was the whole team. It's not there that I'm going to talk. I will talk, but it's not there. Remember, I'm still doing my due diligence about what is happening here. Where is who is pulling these strings? I know it's Natalie. I know Ola is involved. I know all these, and I'm observing their characters, because the less we talk, the more they feel that they have to talk to fill the void of noise. And the more they talk, the more they're spilling their guts, and the more Toya is assimilating. My name, so obviously I'm keeping the project. They're not going to touch it because they don't have no experience. That's on period, and I'm not being rude. They don't. They even confessed it when we first met them. They don't have any experience. So I want you to explain to me how on the organogram, Ola and Seb are the head of the project that I'm on, and I report to them. Hey! Then the rest of my team are underneath me, but I, Toya, report to them. And in fact, what they said is, however the system was before doesn't work like that. We now, all in my project, we report to them. My camera was off because my facial expressions are never going to do is tell on me. No. Especially when I don't want you to know what I'm thinking, because I know that my facial expressions will tell you. The camera was off. So in my head, I was like, okay. So remember what we have here. I have leverage. This place has extended me 3 times. And all 3 times I got something out of it. If it wasn't the pay increase for the day rate, it was the negotiating of the termination clause. If it wasn't that, then it's back again to increasing the day rate. So I know I have the leverage. I am a subject matter expert in what I do anyway. But even more so in this project, because I've been on this same project for 14 months. 14 months. When I started the organization, I didn't get given this project until November. So I only had 1 month bedding in. Do you understand? And when I say bedding, I was working on a separate project. So this project is all I know, and everybody knows that this project is high visibility within the organization and high value. So they're not going to play with me. I have the leverage. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It's a shakedown. They want to see who's going to immediately react to this their organogram. It's not going to be Toya. You're not going to catch me. I will never give any white man or woman the opportunity to know that they've angered me. You will not see it. Moreover, when I'm washing you, I'll make sure I wash you in front of an audience so you know I'm not the one. So they were waiting for everybody to react. Nobody reacted. So then Seb put in a meeting for people that are on my project. He said that he's going to be doing periodic meeting. That first meeting was 2 weeks ago. I put my camera on. You're going to see my eyes, because I've already digested your bullshit. So already I know how my face is going to be. So I said, Ola and Seb, I just want to understand. Can you throw up the organogram? Can you hear me? Throw it up. can you throw up the organogram? I said, yeah, Toy, of course, coming to use British English. Of course. I said, from this organogram, it looks like I report into you both. Is that the case? They said yes. I said, well, first of all, that's a non-starter. Remember, it's just people on my project on this call now. Seb said, why not? I said, well, how can I report to somebody who has no experience in this particular industry? I said, you told me that. I said, so if I'm escalating it to you, what are you going to do? You're going to just escalate it back to me? That doesn't make sense. I said, secondly of all, I'm a contractor. And as a contractor, we don't report in, like, you can't be my line manager. That doesn't work. As a contractor, I'm line managed by my limited company. And even if I was working within IR35, I wasn't hired to be line managed by you. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. Then I said to Ola, Ola, I just want to understand also as well, is how's this going to work? Because let's call it what it is. When it comes to this project, I'm the one driving the project, and my team are driving this project too. They are my team. We are all team members. We all need each other for this project to survive. So I'm just trying to understand how this is going to work. So Seb, first of all, I just want to say that, you know, we're all finding our feet. I said, well, not really. I think I know where my feet are. Sorry, it's a figure of speech, you know. We can take this offline. I said, no, Seb, we can't. Because my questions affect everybody who's on this call. Taking it offline would be to remove people's ears from hearing what affects them. And I don't think that's right. And I need to understand, because I've got a lot of high risk, and I need to understand if you're going to sign off on those risks, because if you are, I need that signed today. Yeah? Then he started looking uncomfortable. Who wants to sign off on risks that they don't understand? Not this inflated shoulders of a fool here. He now said to me, I think we're just going to continue as business as usual, but I would like to be cited on every email, every this, every that. I just was quiet. I didn't say anything, because me and my team know we're not citing him on shit. Okay? No, that's not going to happen. Ola was slightly different. I think she was slightly scared, because she knows the extent of the project that I work on. She knows the complexities of it. So she was less vocal. You could see that for her, she was dreading it. And that was enough for me to know that the one that is leading this pack is him, Seb. And I'm Seb's worst nightmare. And you know why I'm Seb's worst nightmare? Because I highlight the fact that he knows nothing. He knows shit. He doesn't know nothing. Absolutely nothing. He's just there to claim title. He's the tea and biscuit brigade that we used to speak about. Do you remember on Snapchat, when I'll be going to work, I'll be telling you about tea and biscuit brigade. I'm sure I've even spoken about them on a podcast episode. Rich tea biscuits, digestives, no chocolate on the digestive, and custard creams. That gang. They're usually in the office. They circulate near the tea room. They'll be boiling water. The way they will boil the water, they'll be boiling until now we have the hot taps. Then it'll be quick, and they will be there talking, eating all the biscuit. Then every Friday they'll start shaking their tin, asking you to contribute to the biscuit, so they can have tea and biscuit again the following week. Tea and biscuit brigade. They don't do any work. They just pass through, you know. And before you know it, they've been there for 20 years. They haven't gone up or no progression. They've just stayed there for 20 years, and now they're part of the furniture. They'll even tell you they're part of the furniture. That is Seb. Because Seb already said to me that he has no clue about anything that we do. So instead of you to humble yourself and learn, you're coming here to do hierarchy. It's not going to work. And if you're thinking you're going to use me, you're going to stand on my shoulders to do hierarchy, it's not going to work. My shoulders are quite bony. It will not carry your weight. These lot did it all wrong. Because what they did is they effectively overthrowed the current regime, uncrowned Deborah, then sought to bust us all around and tell us what to do, whilst thinking that we're going to cooperate with them. Well, that's not going to work, is it? So the whole time this is happening, Deborah is basically told that she's no longer managing the team, this, that, and the third, and you could see it. Like, I would check in on her, and you know that this is weighing on her, and she's more upset at the fact that there's nothing she can do to help us, and that she didn't see it coming. She says, Toya, I've been distracted. I didn't see it coming. And I said, had you seen it, what would you have done differently? So she said, well, I think I would have better prepared you guys, but I would have maybe put up a bit more resistance about Ola and Seb coming to the team, maybe one of them as opposed to two of them. Then we could have kind of seen kind of their behaviours and understand quicker than what we did, what had happened. I said, yeah, but the coup didn't just start when they came in their team. I said, there must have been a shift at your level that you overlooked. And she said, yeah, there was. She said that certain meetings were coming out of her diary, but she didn't think of it as anything. She just put it down to being a mistake. So what I learned from that, and it reinforced what I already know, but I continue to learn it, is that as a black woman, you can never take your foot off the pedal. You see, your foot can never be off the pedal. When it comes to some of these people, you've got to understand, they don't want us there. Do you know what their biggest issue with Deborah is? Deborah is really well respected and she really knows the job. How many managers actually know their job? She knows what she's doing. When I'm having contractual conversations with her, commercial conversations with her, she knows what she's talking about. I go to her for advice and I take her advice. That's a luxury. That I consider that a luxury, because I don't know any manager that I trusted their advice, because they didn't know what they were doing, so they trusted me way too much. And I learned that way. Do you understand? But this is a person that will challenge your thinking in a positive way to understand where you're coming from, but then give you another school of thought. That's how you learn and grow. So I don't take it for granted. It doesn't go above my head that is a gift in itself, because I've learned so much from Deborah. I've learned so much. Imagine going into like a board meeting and then you've got to convince the board to release funding. Or you've got to go to the board and say, oh, we've overspent. As soon as Deborah joins the call, they will be so happy to see her. I remember one time we'd overspent on a budget. So we had a board meeting and we had to explain ourselves. And as soon as Debbie introduced the team, she goes, well, I manage this team, but let me be clear. The people who are delivering, and she mentioned my name, and she said, and the people that sit in the pillar, and she mentioned the other's name. Then before she starts talking, they said, oh, well, we know that this is going to be an order. We know that all our questions are going to be answered, because Deborah, one thing about you is you're nothing short of thorough. So you're already starting meetings like that. It tells you that different parts of the organisation not only respect her, but see her as an authority in our field of what we do. That's somebody who's opening the door so that when I'm talking, they will listen to me proper, because they already know I'm sitting in a team of high performers. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? So Natalie is jealous because everybody in the team organisation, they know Deborah, they know about her. Like, imagine delivering multi-million-pound contracts daily for 14 months. If they're not talking about you, then who are they going to be talking about? Because they talk about her. I'll be in other meetings where she's not, and I'll tell them whose team I sit in. They'll be like, oh my God, you're so lucky. You know, that type of thing. And Natalie is really jealous of that. Ferociously jealous. As time continues, I will even explain more. So jealous. Even when Deborah talks, like on a camera, if you see Natalie's face, that one is not chewing wasp. She's chewing bumblebees, because, boy, she's vexing. And also, when she talks when Deborah talks, ask questions, people answer the questions. Whereas when Natalie's asked, has anyone got anything to say? Everyone's quiet. I'm like, these meetings are like a cemetery. So quiet and eerie. So obviously, as part of the coup, now Deborah can't do any meetings. Effectively, they've just sidelined her. So she's waiting for them to serve her notice, so she will leave. But she's not willing to leave until us lot go, because she's protective. And in a way, I feel like I get where she's coming from, in the sense that you don't want to leave your team behind. But there comes a point also where you have to draw the line, because it's bordering on disrespecting her now. And it's difficult to watch. But I know that God has positioned me in the position I am in, and the ancestors have been operating at an optimal level to show me what happens when you get to Deborah's level? Because that's the next level for me, Deborah's level. But I'm not interested in Deborah's level. I'm not interested in that. I'm happy where I am. I'm happy with being like the number 2. I'm happy with that. I don't want to be a director. I'm not interested, because I'm a contractor. So for me, I'm already a director of my limited company already. I'm not looking for directorships everywhere. And from a career perspective, I'm doing what needs to be done. And I'm happy with my trajectory. Do you understand? I'm happy with everything. And I think with Deborah, for her, she kind of fell into it. I don't think it was the intention to be the director, but she's found herself there. And it's a comfortable position for her. But as a director, she forgot that she's still navigating as a black woman. And I think she stopped doing that. And I think she just focused on delivering and not the political aspects of the organisation and the people she's working with, who are all white. She's the only black person. In terms of seniority, she's the only one. So clearly you know that you're having to navigate differently and actually navigate. And she didn't. She said that she was distracted, and I don't blame her for being distracted, but this is the consequence. When you think that you're too comfortable, and you get too comfortable, and you think that you have a clear understanding of the organisation, when in fact, whatever understanding you have is always evolving. So that is why you have to continuously be in a state of due diligence and observation. And I think that in being distracted, she came to me for a second opinion because she trusted my eyes and my ears. And she trusted the fact that I would always be honest with her. And she knows that I'm the type of person that I take my time. So when you step on my foot, then I'm going to start talking. But outside of that, and I'm not involved in the passer, she knows that I don't get involved. You see all this office gossiping, she knows. Sometimes she'll even be telling me stuff I don't even know about it because I don't get involved. I'm here to collect my bag. Not coins, bag. I'm here to collect the bag, yeah? And continue to grow and learn. That's what, because now I can tell you that I know within myself that after this place, I know that, honey, we there. We there. So for me, I'm not really bothered per se, but what has bothered me is the fact of how things have happened and that we're under a new regime and it's very awkward and it's very uncomfortable, and I'm having to assert myself in a way that will allow me to continue to be comfortable as I now look at pastures new. Do you understand? It is very much the perm versus the contractors, and it's a very overt, it's not like, whisperings. They make it very clear to us that we're contractors. I mean, even in the organogram, we have different colours for contractors and different colours for perm, and it's so disrespectful because it's like you're trying to be divisive of a team that operated irrespective of hierarchy or anything. And then what they've done is they've put us into different categories so that we don't talk. It's called divide and rule, but it doesn't work because we spent too much time as a team together. And also as well, ultimately we're bonded by certain projects that we all work on. So it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's been a very stressful environment because it's very toxic, and toxicity is energies, isn't it? So I'm having to police my energy and I'm having to be very strict. So you will notice on social media, usually when I work late, I'm always like, oh, I'm working late today, let's talk about something and I'll post something. You're not getting that anymore because I don't work late anymore. Yeah, I'm doing tea and biscuit brigade time. Yeah, yes, my dear. I have afternoon siesta. I'll wake up, do a couple of hours, and then I log off. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Tell me that what? If I tell you that my internet is being worked on or they're laying the line for the internet, you have to believe me in it. I'm a remote worker. I would definitely say that you see a lot of this behavior, especially like from a perm perspective, like when there's mergers or you have a new manager come in, you need to be prepared for redundancies, because when they start talking about restructure, those are buzzwords for redundancies. And you need to start, as soon as you know that there's a restructure coming, you should be looking for a job, because you're going to be part of the pool of possible redundancies. And what I always tell people, you don't wait to be made redundant to be looking. Be looking, just keep your eyes open. If you are due redundancy money, then obviously, when I say due redundancy money, say if you've been working for the organisation for like 6 years or something, obviously you don't jump ship before you get your money. There's a redundancy masterclass on the toytalks.com website where I'm really clear about how to manage a redundancy and the steps and the information that you need to ask during a consultation for redundancy. So you've got the material there. Please go and have a look. Because I feel like some people are surprised when they find themselves in a redundancy situation, but all the signs were there, you just ignored it, you buried your head instead of taking charge of your career and your job. Now, what is happening in the particular organisation I'm working in, but for the fact that I am a contractor, it would be seen as a reorganisation. So what would then transpire after that is redundancies. But clearly, because I'm a contractor, that can't happen. Yeah? But let me tell you what has been happening. So I'm at the end, I'm nearing the end of my contract. And any contractor will tell you that if your contract is about to end, you've got maybe a few more weeks left on the contract, you start looking further afield, isn't it? You start looking for other contracts. You don't wait to the end of your contract to look for a new contract. You don't do that. Now, remember I said to you, within my contract, I renegotiated 4 weeks notice. So some of you will be saying, Toya, why don't you just leave it as 1 week then, since you're leaving? No, I'm strategic. I know exactly what I'm doing. Because at the time I renegotiated it to 4 weeks, I already had the leverage, I had the knowledge. So I know that I'm not going to work that 4 weeks. I'm not a perm. What I am is strategic. That 4 weeks guarantees me 4 weeks money. Now, the bit that I haven't included yet is when I renegotiated the 4 weeks notice, I also added a clause that they had to accept because I said it's a non-negotiable. If they require a handover, then they have to pay for that separately. What do I mean by that? If I'm working as a contractor on a day rate Monday to Friday, and you ask me now to do a handover, I can't do that on my Monday to Friday, not at the level of seniority in which I sit, because that means taking away from BAU to now focus on your handover. So what is the priority? Is it BAU or is it a handover? Now, at a point at which somebody resigns, both become the priority. And if both are the priority, that means on weekends I will have to do that handover. You will pay for it. So there is a clause within my contract that I drafted and basically said, if a handover is required, yeah, the organisation must give me 5 days notice of a requirement for a handover. And I will charge at a day rate in accordance to what I charge Monday to Friday. I will charge that day rate on the weekend. And this will need to be paid. It will be billed in the same way my rate is billed, and I have to pay for it. Just remember that for 1 minute. So you and I both know a few episodes ago, I told you I was already starting to look for other contracts anyway. I was getting sick and tired of this place. I've been there 14 months, like what the hell? So I already started speaking to people, but I wasn't as on it. I just wanted to know the market appetite, right? Because obviously we're heading towards new financial year settings. Remember what I said to you, that there's certain periods of the next few weeks where you will see that the jobs will be slow, and that's because they've got no money, right? So I needed to see what the appetite was in the market, because it's been a while since I've been on the market, right? So a couple of people called me back and they said, oh yeah, it's good, giving me feedback, And I've got a couple of people on my Rolodex. You think it's only Oyibo people in the Shard that have Rolodex? So it has their own Rolodex. It's called Roller Apple. Yeah, Roller Apple phone. I just called 1-2 people. I said, listen, I'm going to be on the market soon, so you need to bear me in mind. They're like, yeah, Toya, we've got you. I said, please have me. Thank you. So, remember I said to you that we're still working, in and amongst all this toxicity, we're still working. But as part of my project, there's like a side project, and these new perms need to be doing this side project because it's adjacent to my project, but the whole reason why they've come in is to do side projects of all of the other projects that are actually live. And that would then feed into what we're doing. Do you know that none of them have picked up any of the side project? They seem to think that we're going to amalgamate it into what we're doing. So, wait, basically, you're asking me to work double. You're mad. So anytime somebody will come and ask me about the side project, I will tell them Seb is leading on it, because that's how he introduced himself when he was doing Plenty Cents and High Shoulders. He came to tell me that all those side projects, he's going to carry them. He's going to do them. After all, he's head of this. He did this in this place. In 2020, he did this. In 1992, he did this. So you can carry it. This is light work for you. But remember, I told you he's part of Tea and Biscuit Brigade, so you know that he's not going to do no work. So now all the stakeholders are asking questions. When are these side projects going to go live? When are I'll send them straight to him. Do you know that when I send them straight to him via email, he doesn't respond? So already I know that he's fearful of work. Yeah, he's got phobia. He will now be telling you all his family history. I'm not interested. I'm interested in the doing. Are you going to do it? Or what? Or what? Then they recruited somebody else, another perm from their little crony gang. Sent me email. They said, Toya, I just want to update on where you are with so-and-so, which is fair enough. I do give regular updates because it's high visibility contract. And he then wrote the name of the side project. He said, I need to give update on the side project. And I knew that Seb had instigated that. I said, you know what? I only needed one more push for me to say FUCKYOU. One thing you're never going to do is have the opportunity to set me up. It's not going to happen. Remember what I said to you? Deborah was distracted. I can't be distracted here. Because if I allow myself to be distracted in this situation, Seb will now say Toya was in charge of the side project. So Toya's doing side project. Toya's doing main project. Toya's doing BAU. Toya's then doing this. No, you're not going to do that. Just because you're afraid of work, you want to collect the check, but you don't want to do the job, and you want a Labour black woman to do the job for you. It's never going to happen. I'm not going to operate at that level. It's not going to happen. And I've already been watching him. I knew what it was. When you are setting up my boss, you're going to set me up. Period. It may not be to the same degree, but you are going to set me up. Because now your coup has worked. So now you're thinking, okay, what else can you get as part of... It's not going to be me. So, Friday, the 25th of February, 2022, at 1 p.m, I resigned. Can you hear me? I resigned. Yes, I did. You know one thing you're never gonna do is try to labor me more than the labor I've agreed to. What you are never ever gonna have the opportunity to do is oppress me in a workplace. And what you are never gonna have the opportunity to do is to take credit for my labor. I've learned so much here. I've taken you guys on the journey of this place just to show you that whatever level you are in the world of work, white people will always show up with work violence. Non-black people will always show up to work with work violence. No one is precluded from it. It doesn't matter how much you earn. It doesn't matter your job title. These people, they don't want to see us. So what they do is they make things so uncomfortable and unbearable for us, and then they'll ask us if we are okay. They will gaslight you. They will do all type of things to frustrate you. There's nothing I haven't seen here. Nothing. Is it the man that Closet Racist? Do you remember that episode? Go and listen to Closet Racist. I've been through it here. But what it has done is it's enabled me to be very, very clear about my need to continue to teach, educate, and advise black women how to navigate the world of work safely. Yes, that's what it's done. And moreover, while all these things were happening, one may wonder, Toya, wouldn't have it been easy for them to get rid of you? And the answer is yes, but they couldn't. Because I'm a subject matter expert. I made myself intrinsic to this project, or at least the project that I'm working on. I'm a safe pair of hands. I've navigated very, very, very well. When the news cascades to the organization that I'm leaving, heads are gonna roll. They are gonna fight for me, and it's already started. they're going to fight, because they realize as well that they can't do the job. And this is the crazy thing, isn't it? They can't do the job, but they don't want to give you peace so that you can do the job. And one thing with me is, once I resign, I do not go back. The one time I went back is because I resigned as a perm and came back as a contractor and cleared all the bags. That was my first contracting gig. We're in now almost 6 years deep now. I'm a seasoned contractor. And when it comes to commercial contract management, senior commercial contract management, I'm 8 years deep in the game. So I'm really sorry. They need me more than I need them. And word on the street is the market is ripe. And I get to decide what I want to do. You know, one thing about contractors, yeah, we make good money, but there is a lot of risk, as you can see. There's a lot of risk. There is. I mean, people are working on 5 days notice. Somebody can wake up in the morning and say, yeah, here's your five days notice, and you're out. You know, navigating as a contractor is a different world as well, because there's so many more risks built into it. But the fundamentals are the same as perms, because at the end of the day, no job is safe. And if you haven't learned that through the pandemic, then you haven't started your understanding of how the world of work actually operates. The only difference is you're an employee with more structured contractual employee right and terms, whereas as a contractor, whether you're, inside IR35, outside, to be honest, it's an issue of money. But from a contractual perspective, I feel like that we still take more risks. You know, you may get the odd contract that has 4 weeks, i.e. as a standard, rather than in my position where I had to negotiate it in. And you may have like contractors who build in maybe a month, but you've got to also remember is, as a contractor, we also benefit from the flexibility of having 5 days notice, because when you're having interviews for other contractual roles, they want you ASAP. They want you in 5 days. So it works for us. I knew that I was taking a calculated risk in baking in 5 days notice, 4 weeks notice. And as part of my resignation, and remember, I don't actually have to resign. I just have to give them notice. We do it proper. I told them, within my contract, I have 4 weeks notice. However, I'm leaving in 2, because the way this organization has attempted to frustrate my mental health has meant that I need to use the 2 other weeks as respite. I wrote it there. I said I had to take out a grievance as a contractor for racism, bullying by coercion, racism, sex discrimination, harassment and victimization. I had to take out a grievance as a contractor. These are the things I've had to deal with. So as far as I'm concerned, the contract may say 4 weeks, and I'm asking you and I'm appealing to you to use judgment here, to understand that I will give you 2 weeks, and you need to use the other 2 weeks as mental respite. Because as a black woman in this organization, it has been very much a test from start to finish. I wrote it there. Do you know that they came back? And we're going to talk about what they came back with. We're going to talk about that in next week's episode, because certain things are playing out right now. And it will feed into the resignation masterclass that's about to go live. And it's going to feed into teaching you guys how to manage a resignation, especially when a resignation is tempestuous like mine. Because in as much as being intrinsically entrenched in an organization, which is amazing, it also has a downside. Because if I was them, I would make me work for 4 weeks, because I know this project better than anyone else, and they need that knowledge transfer. They need it, whether they're paying for it or not. They need it, so they're willing to pay. However, from my perspective, they don't want to piss me off, because if I start to talk about what I've gone through here, they know they can't handle it, because they now know from the initial grievance that I did, closet racist, that I'll take it where it needs to go. So rather, what they are going to do is they're going to take the path of least resistance, and they're going to say, okay, you know what? We'll take your 2 weeks notice. We're going to pay for the additional handover, and we're going to let you go. That's what they're going to do, because they ain't got no choice. I have all the cards. I've got the leverage, and I played this very well. This was a game of chess for the last 14 months. I've been playing chess with these mad people. please, please, please take the learnings from this episode. Deborah is an amazing woman, but in order to be a well-rounded professional, you cannot be distracted. As a black woman, we can't afford to be distracted, because if we take our foot off the pedal, there will be a coup. And usually the casualties are going to be us, or the people who fail to continue to keep abreast of what is happening, the changing tide. When I was a perm, I made it my business to look at the financial, end of year financials. They'll start doing meetings in the office, like team global meetings. I pay attention. When they're talking about mergers and acquisitions, I'm paying attention, because depending on what happens with that will determine my career direction within the organization. If I've already been there for 6 months and they're already going through a merger, do I now need to start looking for other jobs? And when you look for other jobs, you can say your organization is going through a merger, and since you've only been there for 6 weeks, it will likely be last in, first out. You can use that as a reason for leaving. People think that they have to be in an organization for a sustained amount of time to feel like they can leave, and that's not the truth. You just have to frame things properly. I've got a podcast episode about framing. It's good. If you look back at something in the title, it has framing. You have to know how to frame certain things. Even in the CV, I've got CV masterclass. You have to understand how to frame certain things. If you don't frame it well, you give people opportunity to start poking holes in certain things. As black women, we have to pattern up. Pattern up. Getting too comfortable with tea and biscuit brigade. When the biscuits run out, they'll use the tin to back us bis boss to your head. You've got to open your eyes and pay attention. You've got to treat your career like a project. That's why I can't have anybody come and question the things I have acquired, I've suffered for them. I have suffered for them. And I've also worked hard. I've dedicated myself to navigating the world of work so that I, as a black woman, can be successful. I am a successful black woman because I've made the sacrifices. I've understood that the world of work has to be navigated in the way that I have done. I have to do my due diligence, and I'm continuously on a path of due diligence. So nothing that Deborah said to me surprised me, because I predicted it, because I was seeing the behaviours. The problem that Deborah has is because there was so much going on, she didn't tap in her best lieutenants. Yeah, she didn't. If she is the general, there's at least 4 of us, core people who have been there from the beginning, that have been loyal to her. We have been her lieutenants, like literally. She will hire staff. She will do it in silo. They won't even last up to 1 month. They'll be coming to cause problem. Within the first week, I will even be saying in my mind, this one will last 1 month. This one will be 3 weeks. And sure, it will happen that way. I think the problem is she didn't realize what was happening because she was distracted. And I think she has issue with delegation because she's so busy. She didn't afford time to delegate certain things. If she had delegated some of the recruitment to one of her lieutenants working together, we would have been able to see certain things. I wish she came to me sooner, because one thing with me is I don't pick up the phone to call her to give her a heads up. No, if she wants it, she has to come to me. Because remember, I've told you guys before, when someone's coming to you to ask for help, there's a humility they come with. So when you're giving them the advice, they're not necessarily trying to challenge it or see it as you have an ulterior motive. Whereas if you're going to seek them to give them the advice and you're giving them the advice that they may not feel comfortable with, they will now be accusing you of being the saboteur. And I'm not interested in that. So anything she wanted, she knew she had to call me, because I'm not calling you. If you want the advice, you have to come and seek me out, because the humility that you would have used to come to me means that your ears are open to receive what I have to say. And unfortunately, she came to me too late. Within 1 hour of talking to Seb, and it was, when I say talking to, he was talking at me, I already knew that he was coming here to do bass boss. I knew it. He was coming to do a fracas. He was coming to do nonsense. He was coming to do jazz. I knew it. I knew it. So as things unfold, I will be so Tuesday's episode is going to be very juicy, because obviously you are now going to hear what has happened as a result of my resignation. You are also going to hear certain contingencies that I have put in place that I am now relying on. It's not just the renegotiation of that contract that I'm now relying on, because now, you know, that contract that I told you that when they offered me an extension I renegotiated, I'm not just relying on those clauses. I'm also relying on a couple of other things that I built into padding myself, because I do not trust white people in white organizations, because their constructs has been built to benefit white people and not me. So I have to have my own contingencies, and I have my contingencies, and I'm going to share those with you. I'm also going to be sharing with you the aftermath of my resignation. And next week is an episode not to be missed. That's all I'm going to say. So we have quite a few dilemmas, I have to be honest. We do have quite a few. So what I'm going to do is I am going to read 2 of the dilemmas, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them effectively, and then we're going to wrap it up. So this dilemma is called advice on offer stage. So I'm assuming this offer stage has passed now, because she sent it on the 18th of February. Apologies. I hope you are well. Hi Toy, I hope you're well, and thank you for everything you do. I've binged your podcast and have bought your negotiation masterclass, which is so detailed that I cannot wait to use it. I'm currently in the final stages of a job that will be a 10k plus salary increase, and although it will be challenging, will help me advance my career. I was listening recently to one of your podcasts where you said you look to move after 18 months, and I totally understand, as I noticed that my current role does not allow for enough advancement long term after being there for 13 months. Anyways, my dilemma is that they are all in the office 5 days a week, which is not ideal. I would prefer a flexible work from home policy. I'm happy to be in the office whilst I learn the ropes. Well, that's your first mistake. But long term would like a 3 days a week. Now, from listening to your podcast and negotiation masterclass, the best time to negotiate is at offer stage, not after the fact, correct? I am not sure how to go about for additional context. I'm using a recruiter. Again, I know that you mentioned that it's easy to negotiate via a recruiter than directly. The reason why this is an issue for me, and I know that this is not something that should be mentioned to the recruiter or company, is that I'm looking to move outside London, and traveling into London 5 days a week will negate the price rise. So why do you want to go in 3 days then? And just be a long journey when I work long days. So I'm happy to be flexible, but not full time. But 3 days a week is akin to full time, to be honest. I don't know why If you have any advice, I'd be really grateful. I haven't got an offer yet, but thought it might be useful to have all the tools before I start. Many thanks, and again, thank you for all you do. So I'm going to go back to her and tell her to listen to this episode. I do apologise that I'm only coming back now, but you can imagine the amount of emails that I get. Like, I have to wade through it, and so does my assistant. So, okay. So hopefully, this was the 18th. So hopefully you have listened to other episodes, because if you listen to other episodes, I kind of have spoken about how to deal with this. So you're right. You're going through an agency. So if you've listened to the agency episode, you would hear how you manage them, and you use them as a tool of negotiation. Now, I think that you need to have a think about what you actually want. You're saying that you don't mind being flexible. No, let's start again. First of all, you have to decide what you want. You can't tell them, obviously, that you're moving outside London. That they don't care about that. They don't give a shit. Some of them, they live outside London. They'll even tell you that they travel in 5 days a week. Do you understand? So that's a non-starter. You need to leverage the fact that we are now, quote unquote, living with COVID. But for the last 18 months to 2 years, everybody's been working from home. And that organisation was probably working from home remotely, Monday to Friday. So let us not see this remote working as a big deal. It's only a big deal because they want to look you in your eyes and see the whites of your eyes, not because of anything else. I know there's some industries that they need to be in, like in the office, like for instance, investment bankers. I know traditionally they don't work from home. Okay, fine. Outside of that, maybe a few other roles, I don't see why you want to compromise to 3 days a week. you might as well go in for the 2 days. You're not really saving any money. And just to let you know that travel is increasing. And where travel is increasing, unfortunately, people's salaries are not increasing to match it. So the cost of living is now become very expensive. So you need to really think about whether you want to be in 3 days a week. That's what I'm going to firstly say. There's nothing wrong with it, but you need to do the calculations and really think about it rather than just throw out days that you will do. Really think about it, because once you put it in a contract, they're going to expect you to honor it. That's the first thing. Secondly, you haven't got an offer yet. Fine. So this is the right time. This is the right time. You've come to me at the right time to have this conversation. So I'm definitely going to email you and say, please listen. Hopefully I'm not too late. If I am, I apologize. But I know there's enough content that could have guided you how to manage this. Secondly, I'm sorry, my dear. At the time that they make an offer, you know that you have leverage. Now, if you've listened to the negotiation masterclass, you'll understand what leverage and bargaining power means, because I go into a lot of detail and I give examples. It's not just, negotiation masterclass isn't just negotiating salary. It's negotiating favourable contractual terms. When they offer you a role, they're telling you they want you. And therefore, I would use the recruiter as the conduit for this negotiation. You say to the recruiter, and everything you say verbally must be in writing. You follow up with an email. You say to the recruiter, thank you for the role. You say, thank you for putting me onto the role. Obviously, now I've got an offer. However, I'm not comfortable with 3 days a week. I want it to be 2 days a week, or 1 day a week, whatever it is. Or maybe you want to do the 3. And I need you to position that to the client and allow them to do the donkey work for you. If they agree, okay, 3 days a week, for example, then it needs to go into your contract. It cannot be taken as the email. It can't be in the offer letter. It has to be in the contract. So in the contract, there will be a clause that says how many hours you work or something. You can add an additional clause. You can even draft it in yourself. For example, you could draft it as, it is also accepted by both parties that the minimum amount of days to be in the office, and then you write the office address, shall be 2 days a week, 2 days a month, or whatever. That's it, simple clause, that's a sentence. So that's how I would suggest dealing with it. And if they say no, if they push back, then you've got to make a decision. Is this a non-negotiable for you? Because I'm going to tell you about me. When I've spoken to the recruiters, because obviously I deal with recruiters every day as a contractor, when I was reaching out to them, I attached my CV. In the body of the email, I was really clear. I said to them, these are my non-negotiables. This is the minimum day rate I'll expect. Based on my experience and my academic accomplishments, I wrote it there. I am a remote worker. There will be no compromise. I wrote it there. And lastly, they must provide equipment. I'm not going to use my own IT. They have to provide it. I wrote it there. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. As an absolute minimum, I think I would go into an office once a month. And I'll tell you the reason why. I think for my own mental health. Because the other day when I got on the train, I forgot how to use the train. I didn't understand. And I think it's just because I'm not used to it. I drive everywhere, right? But I'm not going to tell them that's the minimum. No, because they'll expect it. Maybe it's the minimum now because the sun is shining. You understand? When I wake up in the morning, I don't want to do that minimum. So it's better that I shut my mouth and tell them that I'm a remote worker from the jump. You understand? And make sure that in the contract of engagement, as a contractor, they know that it's a remote role. I write it there. They know. I write it there. It's not enough for you to use your lip service to come and tell me in a call or a remote call. No, you have to put in the contract. So my dear, that's how I would deal with it. So I think we've got time for one more dilemma. So this dilemma is called advice. Hi Toya, hope you're doing well. Firstly, I love your podcast and all the advice you share across your social media. It has really helped me navigate the rubbish that I've experienced at my most recent job. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty, but it was clear that the company catered to employees that have tenure over those that have talent. Ooh, that's a strong sentence. I might do that, tenure over talent. That's a podcast episode right there. Anyway, in a nutshell, what I was experiencing was workplace bullying during my 3-month probation period. I tried to resolve the situation internally with no resolution, so I decided to bring it forward as a formal grievance. That's your first mistake. The process was grueling and horrible, and I was made to feel responsible for the abuse that I was subjected to, which was actively affecting my work and progression. The outcome of the grievance was that they were not going to take the issue further and recommended training for me. Hell! I found this incredibly insulting and handed in my notice later on the same day. Now that I'm out, or on my way out of the company, I'm really not sure with what to do next. I was the only black person in the office. It was my first corporate role, and I was made to feel entirely incompetent, which I know I am not. This experience has really taken a toll on my confidence and self-belief, and I'm struggling to see how I'm going to move forward from this advice. Any advice would be much appreciated. So, last week's episode was about confidence, so you need to listen to that episode. And I think that you need to listen to the episode called Closet Racist. And you need to listen to the episode Framing is Not Just for Pictures. And the other episode that I have, I would say Closet Racist. You need to listen to those episodes, because if you do listen to those episodes, you'll be able to understand, I think, from a mental health perspective, how I dealt with feeling this way, because I've been in situations too where I've been gaslit. And I did share I did do an episode about that, where I had all the evidence, but they were still gaslighting me. What I will say is, when you bring up a grievance complaint during your 3-month probation, that's not always a good time to do it. Sometimes you have to wait. And I know it's hard, because I'm not advocating waiting. I'm just giving advice here from my experience. When you're on a probation period, you're in a very precarious situation, because you're actually not a fully fledged employee. If they've worded the contract in a way that would say that you only become like a full-fledged employee once you're past your probation, and they say part of your probation isn't just the end of the probation period, it's confirmation in writing. And what that does is it gives you leverage, and it takes you out of that precarious situation, because you'll notice that during a probation period, your notice is different to what it is after the probation period, if that makes sense. And that evidences how fragile probation period is. So I feel like that's not always the best time to do a grievance. I'll be honest, any grievance I've ever done has never been during probation period. No. But I get that sometimes situation will so have it that you have no choice. So I completely understand it, but I have to call that out, because I definitely know that probably one of the things that maybe made you work with your hand behind your back is the probation, I'm sure. And it was easier for them to blame you during the probation period, because you wouldn't, do you understand? Because they know that they can get rid of you sooner than if you'd passed it. And what would have happened is they probably would have extended your probation, especially if they're now saying that you need further training. They will say that you're not delivering, and therefore they're extending it. So to your point of handing in your notice, I get it, because you wasn't going to pass that probation now anyway. For them, they'll see it as, well, you've made a grievance, we didn't find in your favour, so they're going to use that then to punish you, and the punishment is you're not going to pass your probation. So I get it. Now, when you talk about kind of you're struggling with confidence and self-belief, I definitely will encourage you to listen to the episode that I recorded last week about confidence. And I understand as black women, we struggle with that anyway. We struggle with imposter syndrome, and I talk about that. I actually have an episode called Imposter Syndrome as well. So it's crazy, isn't it? Because I've created these episodes because I've gone through it and I get it and I understand it. But you have to also understand that there is a courage and there is a strength in advocating for yourself. And I talk about it in the Advocating podcast. I talk about advocating for yourself. Just because they didn't find it in your favour doesn't mean you lost. Because what was the alternative? To say nothing and continue to suffer the experience that you were going through. We also have to give ourselves credit for knowing when enough is enough. Some people will continue to bury their head and suffer. And you said no, and you stood up for yourself. Now I'm sure you will learn the learnings from this situation, because there must be a reason why they didn't find in your favour, and you have to be able to critically analyse where you went wrong in how you managed it, because there's no perfect way to manage a grievance, but they're learning so that if you were ever in that situation again, what would you do differently? Now the outcome, you can never, bank on what the outcome will be, but what we do have an opportunity to do is take a step back and understand how we can better manage the situation. Listen, When an organisation has made up their mind that they're not going to find in your favour, there's nothing you can do. Especially when they feel that they hold all the cards. And it's not a given that just because you have all the evidence that they'll find in your favour. I know that. But it's different when you're a perm member of staff versus when you're a perm, but you're still in your probation period. Obviously, I don't know the nitty-gritty and the ins and outs of this. But what I will say is, and I have said it before in a previous episode, is whenever we take out grievance, whenever we advocate for ourselves, we are a moving target. But my thing is, we're always a moving target anyway, right? As black women, they always see us that way. They know that we're best in class. They'll hire us, but they will still operate as if we are the enemy. And therefore, we know that we're a moving target. I want to encourage you and I want to comfort you and say to you that this is not your fault. And there is no fault here. There can only ever be learnings. So I would encourage you to listen to the episodes that I quoted before and give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself and protect your mental health. And I say protect your mental health in that maybe you might need to go to therapy. Listen, as a black woman navigating the world of work, we all need to go to therapy because what we see there is a lot and it is enough. It is enough for us to know that sometimes we need to decompress. And sometimes, listen, I had to go through therapy because of work in my earlier years, especially because I had no clue of how to navigate. There are a lot of traumas that I've said it before in previous episodes. You unpack traumas in other roles. Do you understand? And you're also triggered by certain things in other roles that had happened in previous roles. And we have to be able to go to a safe space like a therapist and unpack that and work on that. And I understand that, from a therapy perspective, it's about financial ability to be able to afford it. But, I think that if we are working, we should at least try, even if it's once a month or once every quarter. We have to try because navigating the world of work as black women is mentally taxing. Even the things that I've gone through in the world of work, like just in this particular organization, you think I'm not going to be talking to my therapist? I'm going to have to before I go to the next role. And that is just from the perspective of being able to acknowledge the exhaustion and stress that I have gone through, even in successfully being able to get the outcomes I want, because I've still had to fight my way through. It's exhausting. I'm always tired. Whenever you go on my social media, I'm always saying I'm tired. Because it's mentally taxing. And it's very isolating when you're advocating for yourself, especially when you're the only black person in an organisation. They will gaslight the hell out of you. Oh, I've not had that experience. Well, of course you haven't. You're a white woman. You're not going to have the same experiences as me. So, my dear, please give yourself grace. It's important. I'm going to now draw this episode to a close. And you're probably wondering why I've named this episode Mass Exodus. And the reason I have named it that is because it will make a bit more sense in the next episode, but I need it to make sense now. So obviously I resigned and a lot of people in my team have resigned. It is a mass exodus because sometimes people vote with their feet and people realise how good they are at their role and understand what they bring to the table. When the table is no longer available, we move. If you want to follow me on social media, I am very active on my personal Instagram page, which is Toya_Washington. I also have a TikTok account where I do like high-level tips on work-related issues and work-related things. So my handle is Toya Washington. If you want to follow me on on Twitter, there's so many social media accounts. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Toya_W. And obviously, if you want to follow me on Snapchat, it's Toya Washington, all one word. You guys know, if you've got a work-related dilemma, email hello@toyatalks.com. What I will say is please keep it clear and concise and be clear to me about what outcome you are seeking, because it will help me then guide how I advise you in relation to your dilemma. Please do not write in capitals in the subject box because it looks like you're shouting and there's no need to shout, okay? Anyway, next week's episode is one not to be missed. I'm looking forward to delivering that. And I hope this episode has helped. I hope that you have learned something from here and picked up where the mistakes have been made so that we do not make those mistakes. More importantly, it's also about understanding the dynamics of how an organization works and also knowing when it's time to go. That's important too, knowing when it's time to go, but we can get into that a little bit more in next week's episode. I want to thank everybody for listening, all the new listeners as well. Welcome to the Toy Talks fam. Make sure you acquaint yourself with the episodes. I will say this, anyone who has been aware of the platform, followed for a long time, the general consensus is a lot of you do re-listen to episodes because the gems are in the episodes. You know, some people will email me, oh, how do I do this? How do I do this? I can almost guarantee you there's an episode that will relate to what you need, or there's one being prepared and it's about to come out. You guys know I have the masterclasses on the website, toytalks.com. So you've got the tools. I don't just come here and do an episode without giving you the tools, the practical tools that you're going to need. I share my experiences. We share each other's experiences through the dilemmas. So it's important that we take the opportunity to really listen to the episodes or really take what we need from it and practically use those things. More importantly, I'm going to show up for you guys every single Tuesday. And thank you so much for the support, all the DMs that I get. A lot of you really enjoyed, you guys really enjoy the episodes anyway, but I got a good feedback from the episode last week about confidence. I wasn't sure how you guys would take it because I feel like confidence is quite subjective, but there are general things that we need to consider in the search for journey to confidence, if that makes sense. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we've got a brand new episode. My name is Toy Washington, and you have been listening to the Toy Talks podcast.